Hello everyone. In our previous videos, we have learned about the types of forces, that is contact force and non-contact forces. Under non-contact forces, we have already discussed its two examples. First is magnetic force and the second one is electrostatic force. And today we are going to discuss about gravitational force. Just recall once what is non-contact forces. A force which can be exerted by an object on another object even from a distance, that means even without touching each other, is called a non-contact force. There is no physical contact between the object which exerts the force and the object on which the force is exerted. We have already seen the example of magnetic force, where the magnet will start attracting the another magnet, or the objects made up of iron, made up of nickel, cobalt and steel, even without touching each other, even with a distance from each other. And in the case of electrostatic force also, the comb or the charged balloon, when it is charged by friction, they attracting the pieces of paper even from a distance, that means even without touching each other. So they are the example of non contact force, the force which arises when the two objects are not in physical contact with each other. So today we are going to discuss in detail about the gravitational force. Newton said that every object in this universe pulls every other object with a certain force. I repeat that every object in this universe pulls every other object with a certain force, and this pull exerted by objects possessing mass, that means which is having mass, is called gravitational force. The gravitational force between two objects is a force of attraction, and it acts even if the two objects are not connected by any means. It is the gravitational force between the sun and the earth which holds the earth in its orbit around the sun. And it is the gravitational force only between the earth and the moon which holds the moon in its orbit around the earth. The gravitational force between two ordinary objects having small masses, say for example two stones are having very small masses. So the gravitational force between two stones will be very weak, that means it cannot be easily detected. And the gravitational pull or the gravitational force becomes very strong only if one of the object has a huge mass like our earth, and thus the gravitational pull or the gravitational force between the earth and a stone is very large, which can be detected very easily. How it will detected very easily? When we drop a stone from some height, what happens? It just falls down towards the earth. Why it falls just down toward the earth? This is because the earth exerts a gravitational force of attraction on the stone and pulls it down. In fact, the earth pulls all the object towards its center. And the force with which the earth pulls the object towards it is called the force of gravity or just gravity. Gravity is a natural force of attraction, or you can say is a natural force of pull. We all are pulled to the earth by the force of gravity. For example, when a fruit falls from a tree, it is the force of gravity only which brings the fruit down to the earth. Similarly, when a diver dives into a swimming pool, it is the force of gravity only which brings him down. So, the force of gravity acts on all the objects, and the force of gravity causes all the objects to fall towards the earth. For example, when a leaf falls from the tree due to gravity, when a fruit falls from a tree due to force of gravity only, the rain falls down to earth due to force of gravity. When we open a tap, what happens? The water begins to flow down towards the ground due to the force of gravity. The water in the river, that also flows downward. This is also because of the force of gravity. So when a coin slips from our hand, where it will go? It will also fall to the ground. Why? Because of the force of gravity is acting on it. Actually, when a coin is held in our hand, it is at rest. That means it is not in motion. And as soon as the coin is released from our hand, it begins to move downward and ultimately it falls to the ground. And this downward movement of coin is brought about by the gravitational force of earth, or the force of gravity, which acts in the downward direction towards the center of the earth. Similarly, when a pen slips from our hand, it will also falls to the ground because of the force of gravity acting on it. When we throw a ball upward, what happens? It also falls back to the earth. Why? Because of the force of gravity only. So, this is a point to be noted, that the gravitational force of earth or gravity acts on an object even from a distance. That means even without any physical contact. Therefore, the gravitational force or the gravity is also an example of non-contact force. So there is a difference between the gravitational force and gravity. So don't be confused. I'm again repeating that the pull exerted by the object possessing mass is gravitational force. It can be between the sun and the earth. It can be between the two planets, between two stars, between the moon and the earth. Whereas the force with which the earth pulls all the object towards its center, is called the force of gravity, or just the gravity. And this concept was given by the English scientist Sir Isaac Newton. He had given the idea for gravitational force when he saw an apple falling from a tree. So now I think it must be clear to everyone that what are the types of forces: contact and non-contact force. Thank you so much.